Hi, welcome. In this video, I'm talking about the witness. A lot of people, when they look at the witness, they wonder, what is it that these spiritual teachers are talking about? The witness. Like, how do I find the witness? How can I be more than just my person? How can I alleviate this suffering and confusion and stress? You see a lot of spiritual teachers that look like they're at peace and just going with the flow. And you want that for yourself. You can think of the witness as a part of you that is observing everything about you. But it's not outside of you, it's within you. But you're detached from being totally infused with your thoughts, your emotions, your sensations. And you're just watching it as if you're watching it in third person. But you're still inside of yourself, which can sound confusing. Which is why it's tough to point to it. So a lot of teachers use pointers and say what I'm pointing to is not actually what it is. It's something beyond that. And what your mind will do is it'll be confused. And a common pattern that'll happen is you'll listen to a spiritual teacher and you'll feel this resonation with them. You feel light and you feel more connected. But then your mind will come in and pick at something that they said, and then you will oftentimes dismiss the person and say, no, I don't think this is a teacher for me. And then after some time, you'll come back and you'll ask a question again. And you'll keep doing this pattern over and over again. And it's not a bad pattern. It's not that there's something wrong with you. It's just how it works. It's just how the mind works, how this process unfolds. And each teacher has their own method. Because many teachers, they realize that they have nothing to give you, that you already have it within yourself. So they may play the role consciously of being a guru. They may push your buttons. They may trigger you in safe ways to get you to see what you're holding on to. And there is teachers out there that do trigger people in unsafe ways, in unhealthy ways, in abusive ways, and you should probably stay away from them. But this thing of this common thing of, for example, you might watch one of my videos and something within you might resonate. And then you might have a thought that comes in your head that arises in your awareness that says, oh, this person's only 34. What do they know about life? I'm not going to listen to them. And you click off. And then you may come back to one of my videos sometime in the future. And you might start to feel that might start to feel yourself resonating with what I'm saying. And then there might be something that I say that will trigger you. And then you'll click off. You may even unsubscribe. You may even tell people, yeah, this person on YouTube, I thought they were what I was looking for, but they're actually not. And then sometime in the future, you may come back. And you may watch another video of mine or the same video and watch it for a little bit longer. And something within you will arise and you'll feel uncomfortable. So you might click off the video. And this is a continuous pattern. And the responsibility of a spiritual teacher is to notice this pattern, expect that it's going to happen, see it as natural and just part of the process, and not shame the seeker and not put the seeker down. And it's tricky because on one hand, a lot of these spiritual teachers, including myself, have had direct experiences of that non-dual. And we can see things and see patterns and see people's behavior and defenses and outlook on the world with a level of clarity that can make people feel uncomfortable. And just because a person has that clarity doesn't mean that they're going to use it for good. That's where discernment comes in. So, like I said in the beginning, this video is about roles. What I'm talking about here is the role of teacher and student, which sounds paradoxical because I made a channel that says I'm not your guru. So it might sound like I'm spiritually bypassing here or being manipulative. The ironic thing is that when you come to a spiritual teacher or you come to someone talking about non-duality and you want answers, you're either knowingly or unknowingly playing the seeker role, where you're seeking for information, which by that polarity puts me in the guru role. And I'm consciously playing the guru as a role. So how does this apply to other domains in life? Well, if you learn a new skill, you're playing the student role. And then there's a teacher playing the teacher role. If you are in school or you're in a situation where you're getting picked on, you're playing the role of victim and they're playing the role of oppressor. And this is just the frame of roles. Now, if it's easy and something to look out for is that this is where spiritual bypassing can come in. A person could say, yes, someone's playing victim and someone's playing oppressor. Those are roles. In the big grand scheme of things, they're just roles, and you don't have to worry so much about boundaries or the seeker and the guru role. Those are just roles, and you don't have to worry so much about boundaries. But the important thing is to make sure you're not spiritually bypassing is you don't just use spirituality and spiritual concepts and spiritual practices to avoid your daily responsibilities. You learn to integrate them. So yes, there is a role going on where there's a victim and there's an oppressor. Those are roles two people, two societies, two groups, two countries are playing. And they may, and oftentimes are not aware that they're playing that role. And you still have, and it's still necessary for people to come in and play the role of justice and punishment and consequences. So the witness state is, when you tap into this, you're aware of all these different roles that not only you're playing, but other people are playing. What makes it tough with these roles is in 2026 and in the United States, we're just recently, within the past couple of decades, become more comfortable even talking about this stuff of energy and mind-body connection and intuition and civil rights and all these different things. So because of that, from an evolutionary standpoint, you could say an evolutionary standpoint of development or consciousness, whichever word or concept resonates with you most, it's still new. So you can have and be in the presence of someone that is talking about being in a witness state, and you can feel one with them, and you can feel light and free and feel amazing. And then once you leave that retreat or you leave that person's presence, you're out in the world, which is a world of a world in a sense. And you feel the pull, you feel the density of people, you feel the density of systems. You can feel within your body, parts of your body starting to brace, to become tense. And naturally, you'll come out of that witness state and you'll feel like you did something wrong. But it's not that you did something wrong. It's that you had a genuine state experience, like all teachers have talked about. You've experienced it, you've tasted it. And then you feel like you lost it. But you never lost it, because it can't be lost. It can be clouded by your thoughts and emotions and sensations and influences within the world. But fundamentally, it's always there. And you were, I'd say, lucky enough, but even lucky is not the best word. You were in a space where you were able to see that it was there. So you can kind of think of this awareness, what a lot of teachers talk about, and what I talk about, as when you're walking and you see your shadow behind you. When you're seeing the light, when you're seeing the sun, or you're seeing something that's bright onto you, you see the shadow. And you can think of the shadow as the awareness. Or you could think of the opposite, where the shadow is part of your parts of yourself that need to be integrated. But wherever you go, you're still going to have a shadow. Maybe that'll resonate for some people. Another analogy, if that one doesn't stick, is, was there ever a time that you didn't know or were aware of who you are? Like the sense of you. You know, like, was there ever a time you felt like you were just a chair? Probably not. Is there ever a time you felt like you were just a lamppost? Probably not. You always had a sense of you, more than likely. Of you. There was always a sense of a center of gravity of you. of no matter if you were tired or hungry or sad or any emotion or any thoughts or any feelings or any sensations or any beliefs, there was always a part of you that felt like you. And the reason why I say most people or most of the time is because there is some cases where people have deep mental health issues or struggles because they've had a lot of trauma. And there may be moments where they don't realize that they are them. But for most people, they haven't experienced that. And even those rare cases, they still didn't lose their witness. It was just clouded even more densely than the average person. It's important to see roles. It's important to notice them within yourself and within others. Another example. When I go to work, I realize that I'm playing the role of a competent employee. I realize that other coworkers are playing the role of a coworker who's also an employee and is wanting to be competent. I'm aware of that role that I'm playing when I go into that environment. More often than not, they're not aware that they're playing that role too. Because not only am I playing the role, I'm taking off the role when I clock out. And that might seem like, okay, that seems like it resonates. But if you were to take roles deeper, when I'm with family or when I'm with doing anything in my life, I am aware that I'm playing a role. Taking it deeper like that can feel uncomfortable. Because it's easier to think of playing a role when you go to work. Because you applied for a position, you applied for a role. You know you're expected to play that role. When it comes to your personal life, when it comes to our personal life, we can feel uncomfortable and inauthentic if we even admit to ourselves that we're playing a role. I'm playing the role of grandson. I'm playing the role of nephew. I'm playing the role of son. And I'm conscious that I'm playing those roles. So when you start to experience that witness state that a lot of spiritual teachers talk about, you will most likely get glimpses that you're playing a role all the time. And it causes a paradox within your psyche. And it can cause sadness in the dark night of the soul, where you get to the point where you realize everything I do, I'm playing a role. And then the question eventually enters your mind of, if I'm always playing a role and there's nothing else that I can do but play the role, how do I do it? And the beautiful thing about it, even though it's a tough process to go through, is that you start to realize that you were always playing a role, but you were playing it unconsciously. So it's causing a lot of stress and a lot of tension and a lot of disagreements and miscommunication with others. But when you start to accept that you're now consciously playing a role and you can't unsee it, you start to make more of a conscious effort, oftentimes, where you don't try to be kind, you don't try to be compassionate, you don't try to be loving. You realize that if I have this sense of awareness, then other people do too. And if it gets clouded by me and I lose touch of that witness, that means other people do too. And then in the deepest sense, you realize that everybody is you and always has been. So when you realize that, how you interact with other people, you're interacting with yourself. If you're angry at somebody, or happy with somebody, or in love with somebody, where does that originate? It doesn't originate from them. It doesn't originate from the external world. It starts within you. You feel love, you feel happiness, you feel anger, you feel fear, you feel any emotion. And then it gets transmuted to the external, a person, a situation. This doesn't mean that you're the only one that exists. Doesn't mean that. It means that there's other people out there in the world. In the deepest sense of everyone's the same. You look into someone's eyes, if you look at someone's eyes close enough, you'll see yourself reflected back at you. Like if you are comfortable with that person and you stand very close, you look like you're seeing in a mirror, because all you see looking back at you is yourself. Like your body and everything, as if you're looking in a mirror. Why is that? Because in the deepest sense, we're all one. Now, another important caveat to keep in mind is that you don't want to go telling everybody this stuff, because most people aren't ready to hear it. And most people don't need to hear it because it's not going to help their life. Even though deep inside you want to tell people, you feel like you just discovered something beautiful, and you have. But just because you've discovered something beautiful and you realize that everyone has it, doesn't mean everybody is ready, willing, or able to see it. So then there's another layer where you have to learn to be okay with that sense of aloneness, where you feel one with everything and everybody, but you can't tell them because they just don't see it, they don't feel it, it's not in their awareness. So there's a sense of aloneness that can happen, and often does happen. And the dangerous part is when you get to that point, which they call the dark night of the soul, there's a split, two paths you can take. You can take the path of understanding it and keep on going and integrate different parts of yourself and learn to accept it and realize eventually that you're still connected to people. You can take that journey, which is a journey I recommend, or there's another journey where you just end it. And that is a journey I don't recommend. Because even if you feel like you'll be free from taking that second journey, you're still going to come back. And you're going to have to work through it all over again. And that can sound like, which for me for a while it sounded like when people would say that as like a defense mechanism of like, oh, I don't want this person to commit suicide, so I'm going to say this. But from taking that first path as deeply as I have, I realize that it's true. That you, even when you come back, you're still going to work on this stuff. It's still going to be the same. It's going to be similar stuff. And there's no you to kill. There's no you to, in the deepest sense. In the relative sense, there is a you, there is responsibilities, there is consequences and all this stuff. That's important. In the deepest sense, there is no you. And it's important to understand and integrate that understanding to have a more peaceful life. That's why I say use discernment, because it also depends not only the teachings and the feelings you feel about somebody when you're around them, it also is important to see where they're coming from. Because the stuff I'm saying, a person in a mental hospital that's locked up for life could be saying the same thing. Or a person that is considered a saint and improving the world and helping with a whole bunch of different causes could be saying the exact same thing. And these are two totally different ends of the spectrum of witness and non-dual awareness and how it shows up in life. So it's important to use discernment, because you have to ask yourself, and is this person that's talking and giving me advice, are they using logic and rationality along with intuition, energy? We're all one. Because if they're not adding and including rationality and saying you still have a relative life, you still have responsibilities and stuff, then they're most likely headed towards the mental hospital, because they're not able to incorporate rationality, which is important. Now, if they are using rationality and linear thinking and presenting something that seems coherent, then more than likely it's safer to listen to those people. It's important to know the distinction between a pre-rational, which is before rationality, of saying, like, for an example that you might hear in everyday life, if a person is coming from a pre-rational level of development, they'll say, just put some chamomile on it. That'll solve everything. We don't need doctors. We don't need medical professionals. We don't need x-rays. It'll all heal itself, because we're all one, and God will protect us, and God will know what's right. If there's no rationality included, then it's pre-rational and it's not healthy. Now, if it's trans-rational, like what I advocate on my channel, I'm saying, yes, there's rationality. If you're dealing with pain or struggle and it's interfering with your daily life, go see a doctor. Go get an x-ray. Go use conventional medicine. And also, if you resonate with it, incorporate that and include that with doctors that are more holistic, like Reiki and acupuncture and meditation and yoga. Do you see how that's a trans-rational? That's post-rational. And then rational is just conventional, where it's don't focus on the holistic stuff that's too woo-woo, that's too out there. Even though there's scientific evidence of that stuff working, it's pseudoscience. And rational would also say, well, you know, the whole put the chamomile on, that'll solve everything, don't see a doctor and everything, that doesn't make any sense either. So if you listen to someone that is talk about non-duality, don't just listen to the words they use, don't just listen or feel the energy or the vibrations that they admit when you're in their presence. Also pay attention to how they make sense of the world. And that will, using that discernment, will help you avoid a lot of the cult traps and a lot of the spiritual bypass and a lot of the abuse that happens in spiritual communities. And also keep in the back of your mind that one day I may outgrow my teacher, or I may outgrow this person. Not as a human, because we're all equal, but as a seeker of knowledge. Please keep that in the back of your mind. Even with me. Hopefully, and I hope that one day, whoever watches my videos will get to the point where they realize they don't need me. And they never need me for this stuff. But until then, I'll play the role of the guru when I need to. I'll play the role of the teacher when I need to. I'll play the role of the peer when I need to. Because that's the compassionate thing to do. If that's what's needed for the situation. And maybe one day you'll realize that I can't give you anything because you already have it yourself. And you've discovered that you have it yourself. And you may still watch my videos to feel a connection or just to do it just to do it. But in your deepest sense, you realize you don't need me because you are me. In the absolute sense. And in the relative sense, we're completely different in terms of what we like, our things we're good at, things we're not good at, the humanness of it. But in the ultimate sense, we're the same. That's it for this video.